Well, Cody, we've almost made it back to another football weekend. We're going to have football tonight, of course, a bunch of good NFL action here on a Thursday, probably some college games, but by the time you get to Thursday, man, it feels like the weekend's here. You got one more day. And then, of course, on Saturday, Texas faces UTEP at home in the friendly confines of DKR. We're going to talk about the keys to victory, what we're expecting to see from this team, what we'd like to see from them as far as not only getting the victory this week, but also the keys to victory as they move forward here through these next two games, heading into conference play. The things we're going to need to see is in hopes that they'll stay victorious through the SEC gauntlet that awaits them here in just 3 weeks. Of course, we're going to start by thanking our presenting sponsor, the Man Eye Institute. See life better at the Man Eye Institute. 1-844-WOW-2020. 1-844-WOW-2020. Next Level LASIK. You guys know all about it. We talk about them all the time. They are our presenting sponsor. Thanks so much to the Man Eye Institute for making the show possible. Cody, Sark talked to the media today, said a few interesting things. One of the things that I thought was interesting is, all right, so he gave the update. There's going to be no DeAndre Moore. There's going to be no Emmett Mosley, who we haven't seen yet either. So one of my keys to victory, or one thing that I guess I'll be interested in seeing, is like, okay, I think it's Ryan Wingo time. I mean, I look at it, man, over the course of the first 2 games. Here's a guy that's racked up 8 targets per game. He's good for a 27% target share overall. That's nearly double his nearest competition, which is Parker Livingstone at 15%. He's getting the targets. It hasn't been connecting, and some of those have been his fault. Some of those have been Arch's fault. Some of those have been nobody's fault. But I do think that for me, watching these wide receivers, seeing if they can get Ryan Wingo going, because obviously it's been a focal point to try and get him going. They need to have an explosive element in this offense outside of Parker Livingston. And with no DeAndre Moore, you figure that Parker's going to be involved. I would probably go on Prize Picks and pick him to have over 0.5 touchdowns. I mean, pretty soon they'll start making that a green goblin. That's just like a gimme, right? If he keeps doing this every week. But I think that Wingo is the one who they're going to be really, really happy if they can get going and kind of get that production out of him. What I'll be just as interested to see, though, is what happens with Dalen McCutcheon, because it feels like of all the wide receivers, the young wide receivers, he's certainly played the most out of all these guys. Dalen McCutcheon on the season played only 3 snaps versus Ohio State, but he was the only one of the freshmen to play versus Ohio State. Then got in 12 snaps, but got them in earlier than the rest of the players like Khalil Lockett, Jamie French, etc. It was Dalen McCutcheon, it was Aaron Butler, and it was sometimes in the slot Ryan Niblett who would come in there. Ryan Niblett had a little bit of a elevated snap share only because of the fact that DeAndre Moore did leave that game early last week. It feels like McCutcheon, and by the numbers, McCutcheon is the wide receiver 4 for this group, so he's going to be elevated to the wide receiver 3. Coach Sark says he's stepped up in every single time he's had the opportunity, through spring ball, through fall camp, and he says that if history is any indicator of what the future is going to proceed with, that Dalen McCutcheon is going to take advantage of his opportunity here on Saturday.
I like it. And I wonder what Khalil Lockett looks like as well in an elevated role. I assume we're going to get quite a bit of Khalil Lockett as well, not only late in the game, but also early in the game. Lockett had those 2 receptions for 22 yards last week. Man, you go back to just getting an opportunity, and I know he's like, he's a freshman, but he's super dynamic. He's a 5-star, and one of the favorite things about him was his long speed. And I just look back at these Xavier Worthy box scores to start his career. It always starts out pretty slow unless you're maniacal Jeremiah Smith, but 1 for 34, 2 for 41, 6 for 71, and then that 5 for 103 touchdowns against Texas Tech. I want to see if we maybe get that Khalil Lockett step up. He goes from 2 for 22 to maybe a 5 or 6 reception game. I agree with you. I think a key to victory would be getting Ryan Wingo involved often and early and getting him over 100 yards, but it would be cool to see Khalil Lockett and or Dalen McCutcheon also elevating their game. I'll go another direction, same offense, everything. Arch Manning. This is maybe a lazy one, maybe a easy one. But a year ago, we saw Arch Manning have a 75% completion percentage performance against UTSA, 9 for 12, 223, 4 touchdowns. Against Mississippi State, it was 84% completion percentage, 31 attempts, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns. The first 2 games this year so far, 56%, 63%. A key to victory and something that I want to see, just like a box I want to see checked off, is I want to see Arch tighten up. Well, I should say loosen up, because he seems like he's been playing pretty tight. I want to see him loosen up, and I want to see him just deliver the football clean and efficiently. And in my projection this week that I sent over to Jason, it's going to be up in Orange Woods tomorrow, I wrote that one thing I'd like to see, and I know this is a lot to ask for, but it shouldn't be when you see the results that Julian Sayin and Ty Simpson had these last couple of weeks against, bottom feeders of the FBS. I want to see Arch Manning have a game where it's more touchdown passes than incompletions. Like Ty Simpson was 17 for 17 last week. What is it too much to ask for Arch to be 14 for 17 and 4 passing touchdowns? I just want to see something efficient that can really quiet people up about Arch and his throwing mechanics and this or that.
It's not going to happen.
For me, it's the mechanics that people keep complaining about, but they don't complain about it. Or like our guy Todd McShay will say about this John Mateer thing this week he's been on. When it comes to John Mateer and Pat Mahomes, the mechanics, I just got to put it out the window. And I think to myself, what are we doing here? Like,
I know that this is not a key to victory. People care about football here on the show. Have you not found it? I found McShay's commentary on Mateer to be over the top,
bizarre.
When he talks about him being an other world, he says that he has otherworldly stuff to him.
He literally did the thing where, and again, love McShay, also big fan of Mateer coming into the season. I had him in my 2026 draft stuff when I did the preseason look at him. I had him as my QB 3/4 with Sam Levitt. Sam Levitt's kind of flopped, but Mateer, I like the projection of him. But to go out on a limb and say, with certain guys and the way they deliver the football, like with Mateer, you have to just, you have to ignore the lack of mechanics like you did with Mahomes. And I'm just thinking to myself,
he's too short to ignore the mechanics.
No, no. Like, so that's where, like with Arch, where that's been a big thing the last couple of weeks because he looks hurt, blah, blah, blah. The mechanics are bad. Yes. I'd like to just see an efficient game from Arch where he throws for 200, 250. He's 2 or 3 incompletions and like 4 passing touchdowns. And it can really just temper down the worry and some of these cockamamie SEC podcasts that are talking about Arch Manning being the 15th ranked quarterback in the conference and all this crap. Like, just quiet everybody down, remind them what kind of a quarterback he can be, quit trying to do too much, and just deliver the football, layer the football to these young guys. Because this is a super young group this week with no DeAndre Moore and potentially no Jack Endries. Just give these guys opportunities to make plays in space.
For me, 2 quick things on defense. For one, just the obvious low-hanging fruit. I want to see Colin Simmons have a game where he's not getting in trouble with the coach and for the penalties and stuff. And so where it's like you come out of the game and people aren't complaining about that and they're saying, all right, that's the call. I want to see a Colin Simmons two sacked, maybe even a 3-eyed 3-sack monster, something like this, where at the end of the game, all people are talking about is Colin Simmons and all it is good, right? Just, all right. He had the explosion. These are the kinds of games where you need to rack up these counting stats like sacks and stuff. So I'll say that. And then my other one on defense, I feel like in the Ohio State game, we've seen a really, really elevated game from Cole Brevard. In the San Jose State game, we've seen a really, really elevated game from Murad Watson. You know who's up, man, now? Travis Shaw is up. I want to see Travis Shaw have one of these games where we can point back to his high school 5-star pedigree, some of the tape and the flashes that he showed at North Carolina, some of the stuff with his how do you explain it? His just that explosive burst and that violence and that in these movement abilities that he had that you saw in flashes and you said, oh my gosh, if he can bottle that up and bring that thing on every play like this, he's going to be a demon. He's going to be an absolute menace We have not really. We've seen it. I guess he's been more productive on a per snap basis than Hero Kanu, but he has not played nearly as much as Hero Kanu. Hero Kanu's played 69 snaps this season. Travis Shaw's played 39. I'd like to see Hero Kanu be more efficient on his snaps too. I feel like we've seen it from Brevard. We've seen it now from Watson. We're not going to have Alex January because he's still out. But with Alex January being out, Kanu and Travis Shaw, Lord knows that they don't play Levon Johnson. I'd like to see one of those guys. One of those guys have a big breakout game, man, make some plays, and kind of more interested to see it out of Shaw because the explosive flashes that I've seen out of him, are greater than the ones that I've seen out of Hero Kanu, at least before they got to Texas, even though Kanu has been playing well ahead of Travis Shaw thus far.
My last one, I'll go to the opposite side of the ball. And I'll just say we talked about it yesterday. If you want to go get the full breakdown on the offensive line deep dig, Alex has it up on Orange Bloods, and you can go listen to the show from yesterday. That's very offensive line centric. It's just the fact that if they roll out Connor Stroh with the first group, I don't want to see any mistakes. I want to see a couple of clean drives where it's just doing your job, clean, efficient, and not taking any damage per se, giving up TFLs, giving up a sack, giving up any run stops. I don't want to see this from a Connor Stroh. And if I do, I want to see NATO immediately plugged into the left guard spot for the remainder of the football game. I think a key to victory and a key to the success of the season is figuring out this left guard position before you get to Florida. And I think part of that is when I look in the deep dig and it says NATO snaps 45, Connor Stroh snaps 86, and one of them has seven disruptions allowed, and one of them has 0. Might be time for a change, and that's a key to victories. If you can find that left guard and he can elevate and take a next step forward, NATO is a big key to victory for me against UTEP.